Welcome back to 오매광주.
That's right. And guess what, Dave?
What's that, Lindsay?
Today is a very special Monday because we have a very special guest joining us today.
We do indeed. We're delighted to bring a special Monday show to you. And we're going to start with a bit of an introduction. Of course, we're broadcasting here in Gwangju. And the future vision of our city is to become a city built around AI.
That's right. It's hot news. These days, in the era of artificial intelligence, the importance of asking the right questions is often highlighted.
Indeed. And even the Nobel Prize-winning author Han Gang, of course, from Gwangju herself, she said, I endure questions and live within them, which we think shows that creativity often begins with a question.
Doesn't it always?
Yes.
But the real question is, how often do we truly ask ourselves the meaningful questions? Today, we'd like to explore that very topic on the show.
Oh, I sound so excited. So we are delighted to say that we are joined in the studio by somebody who has been developing AI-based creative education programs focused on just that, questioning, asking questions. So starting today, which is, of course, Monday the 14th, she is kicking off a very special initiative here in Jeollanam-do.
That's right. So please join us in welcoming her to the studio now. This is 김자영 대표님 here with us. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
Hello.
반갑습니다.
대표님 와주셔서 감사합니다.
초대해 주셔서 감사합니다.
Aigwo, what an honor.
It's such an honor.
And it was a big build-up we just gave right there, but perhaps, 대표님, you'd be able to do it more succinctly than us. Could you briefly introduce yourself to our listeners, please?
In English or in Korean?
Whichever you prefer.
편하게 해주세요.
둘 다 편하지 않아요.
정말요?
긴장하고 있어요.
안 그러셔도 돼요.
하지 마세요, you know. Dave's scary, but he's not that scary.
I'm actually sweet inside.
Yeah.
Might not look it.
Sweet and bitter.
Exactly.
Sweet and bitter.
Sweet and bitter.
자, 그럼 소개해 주세요.
네. 안녕하세요. 저는 김자영이고요. 저는 지난 21년 동안 대학교에서 건축학을 지도하던 교수였는데 올해부터 Edu-curator로 활동하고 있습니다.
Edu-curator. 그러면 우리 Edu-curator님도
이렇게 부를까요?
어떻게 해야 좀 쉬울까요? Edu-curator는 조금 복잡한데
교수님이라고 부를까요?
네네 그렇게 해주세요.
알겠습니다.
좋아요. 그리고 you are part of a very interesting office, I believe, right? Could you tell us about that?
네, 제가 올해부터 시작한 회사인데요.
Oh, really?
파포스라고 불렀거든요.
PAPPOSE.
네. 파포스를 설명을 드리자면 민들레 홀씨가 있잖아요. 근데 민들레 홀씨는 항상 이렇게 깃털을 달고 있어서 멀리 갈 수 있게끔 하는 그 부분이 있어요. 근데 이 부분이 파포스예요.
그래요?
근데 이게 이제 제 교육 철학을 담고 있는 부분이기도 하고요. 저는 학생 하나하나가 어떤 굉장한 포텐셜을 가지고 있고 자기가 갖춘 능력을 가지고 멀리 날아갈 수 있게끔 해주는 그런 역할을 해주고 싶어서 제가 제 회사를 파포스로 그렇게 불렀어요.
What a
Poetic.
의미 담근 것이에요.
Yeah.
근데 신기한 점은 Dave, did you know that fluffy part of the dandelion seed had a name?
Still learning English clearly, but that dandelion seed is called the pappos.
The fluffy part at
the
the
fluffy
end.
part, and I guess that propels the seeds far away.
On
That's
the
right.
wind.
When the wind blows, that takes the seed with it.
And so you're hoping to serve that same purpose
That's
to
right.
to students who come within your
That's right.
orbit, propel them
That's
into
right.
the future.
That's right. Their potential, right? We are all just dandelion seeds.
Exactly.
Oh,
nurture you. and
Please nurture
send
me.
you away.
I want to fly away.
Well, that's really poetic, though.
Right? Isn't
Yeah.
it? And great for building your English vocabulary.
Pappos.
PAPPOSE.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm pretty impressed that even now, 30 plus years on planet Earth, there are a lot of words I don't know. But should we give a little bit of a summary there for our listeners in English, Lindsay?
Sounds good. So we are sitting down once again. This is 김자영 대표님, and she has also been called an edu-curator, so an
Okay.
educational curator. And what's interesting about our 대표님, 교수님, edu-curator님 is that actually your background is in architecture. She used to be for, I think,
20 years?
Over 20
big
Over
part of
20
your
years.
career, yeah. A professor in architecture at Korea University. And I also heard you served as the associate dean of the College of Engineering.
That's right.
Wow.
So quite a jump.
Quite a
Yes.
jump.
in career focus, but I imagine your passion for the students is probably the
Mhm.
same, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I joined as a professor with the passion to be with students.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And that was the key factor that I stayed at university for so long,
Yeah.
because I hated being a student myself.
Oh.
Really?
It's quite ironic that I ended up being a professor for 21 years.
Sure.
And I understand the feeling of students having to study so hard.
Right.
You can empathize with them.
I've heard Dave, and you might not know this, but Dave also moonlights as a professor.
Wow.
Yes.
Not quite
so,
on the same level as our real Kyosunim right here.
But I've heard that students that struggle in school, that have a kind of difficult time, often become some of the best teachers.
Is that right?
Yeah, I've heard that because they can really, just like you said, empathize
Sure.
with, what parts are really hard for the students.
I guess so. I guess so. Speaking personally, I don't know about you, Kyosunim, but I actually really loved all forms of education.
Oh.
And actually, we did both go to school in the UK. We were talking about it off air, and your experience might have been similar to mine. The whole time I was at school was great. I loved going to school every day.
See,
and
I was going to say,
learning.
Wow.
also,
No?
people say that people
Wow.
who love school also become really good
But
teachers as
the
well. Yeah.
asterisk I want to add to this is that my experiences were so good, and I tried to channel that into the classroom, like a good interaction I had with a great teacher. I can remember those experiences, and then now when I have a class, I try to be like that teacher because I think that was so effective to me. That made me want to study more.
Right.
I'm probably not always successful, but I try my best.
Mm.
Lindsay, were you one of the former group of students?
Was I a troublemaker? What do
Yeah.
you think, Dave? I got that
Need
troublemaker
not be
energy.
answered, perhaps.
No, but I think it's very interesting that the first part of your career
Mhm.
was such a different subject and yet still connected to education.
Sure.
That's right, that's
yeah.
right.
yeah.
So your latest organization, as you introduced to us, PAPPOSE, you said you've only been starting it. It's only been operating for about a year.
Half a year.
Half a year.
Half a
6
year.
months.
Half a year.
Still a baby.
Fresh
Yeah.
seeds. It's just
Yeah.
sprouted on the surface
That's
of the
right.
dandelion. But yeah, a really interesting shift in careers, as Lindsay keeps pointing out. Clearly, you're passionate about education,
That's
even
right.
if you didn't enjoy it yourself back when you were a student.
Well, I enjoy it as a teacher now.
I see.
So it's a different experience.
That's
Oh.
great.
Why do you think that is? Why do you prefer being a teacher more than being a student?
Because I think deep down I really loved studying architecture
Mhm.
and how the process of design is developed through learning.
Mhm.
And it was interesting to see from a teacher's perspective that if I was the right teacher, I could see the sparks in the eyes of the students,
Right.
really enjoying something that I also enjoyed. So this was like a sense of a great achievement that I have passed on
Right.
my interest and my passion into the souls of the little ones. Yeah.
Onto the little seeds,
Yeah.
right? I can see how passionate you are about education. I'm curious what prompted you to make the jump
Yeah.
from being an architecture professor into now working with focusing more on the educational process, on nurturing students.
right.
Yeah.
Throughout the over 20 years of teaching, I began to realize that the teaching of creativity has to start very, very early. So especially for the students in Korea, they go through the system of being admitted to university in a very rigid and strict way.
Sure.
And as an architecture professor, I realized students are already very formulated, and it was very hard to break out from that box. And they were also a little bit scared to break out, to become a little bit crazy.
A little bit looking for that.
눈치도
Yeah.
보고
Yeah.
좀 무서워하고
그쵸.
그냥 해 이러는데도 못해요. 잘.
그죠.
왜냐하면 이 학생들이 또 우수한 학생들도 많기 때문에 they know that they have to achieve very, very high.
스스로 비교하는 것이죠.
그렇죠.
That's right.
다른 학생들이랑.
Yes. So I hope that I was thinking that what would happen if I started a little bit early with younger students. And also the term Edu-curator, I chose for myself.
Sure.
One of the reasons is that I wanted to curate the curriculum bespoke to individual or small groups of students.
Wow.
So it's not a system that they go through as all the students go through, but it's 맞춤형인 거죠. It's custom made.
For each student, their interests, their
That's
strengths.
That's
yeah.
right. And then it becomes a long-term project which they can grow with it.
This is amazing. And I'm sure that Dave, as an educator, myself, having dabbled in education, we also have
a
our
lot of listeners, no doubt, involved in the education
or
spectrum.
부모, the parents that are out there, have some ideas about the importance of creativity. And maybe we can dive into that a little bit more after we take a break for a song. Dave.
That is a great idea. And in fact, this is a song request by our Kyosunim who joins us today. SG Wannabe with La La La.
Alex Warren and Rose there with On My Mind. And we've got you, the listeners, on our minds. Welcome back to Omekwangju here on Ggn. You're listening to 98.7 FM in Gwangju and 93.7 FM in Yeosu. I'm Lindsay.
I'm Dave.
And Dave, today we're joined by a very special guest.
We are. I'm still not sure exactly what to call her because she is a woman of so many different talents.
She wears too many hats.
She does, but I think we can say this is Kim Jae-young 대표님, Edu-curator, Kyosu님. Today she joins us, though, to share her insight on education, and specifically on one thing I just said, Edu-curator. That is a word that she herself coined to describe.
Well, there is already a term used in the museum field where curating education programs, they call themselves Edu-curators.
I will retract that comment.
Yes.
You did not create it. Mastered the term of Edu-curator. Because she has started a new organization. It's called PAPPOSE, which we have also learned the meaning of. So, wow, what a great opportunity for us, Lindsay.
Pop quiz, Dave. What's a PAPPOSE?
It is the little hair, I think, on a sunflower. Not sunflower, dandelion seed. Keep thinking sunflower, but it's quite similar.
배고프지?
Yeah, but sunflower.
Yeah, 해바라기 씨 맛있잖아.
Oh, really?
You can't eat dandelion seeds the same way.
That is a creative thought process right there, Lindsay. But the thing that we're most interested in is the purpose of PAPPOSE is to nurture creativity amongst students. And we were talking while we were listening to the songs about creativity, especially Lindsay and I from two non-Korean backgrounds.
Yes.
You yourself grew up or went to school in the UK, I
That's
think.
right. Yes.
Completely different education system to Korea. And on the point of creativity, you said that you think it should start young. Students in Korea, by the time they go to university, it's too late for their creativity to be nurtured, do you think?
Well, it's never too late. I
Mhm.
think we can always find different aspects of creativity throughout our lives.
Sure.
But for students who are trained and educated or instructed how to do things, it's very difficult to break away from it. They feel a little bit insecure, especially when they're not given any instructions.
Do you find in your experience then that there is a lack of emphasis on nurturing creativity in the Korean education system?
I think we've been very busy passing down knowledge and skills up till so far, and there was a point where we began to realize that creativity has to kick in somewhere, so that we can look forward to a longer or better future.
Right.
But then the current education system is so deeply rooted down, we don't know where to start to have this little room for creativity. I often hear that students throughout many years of their former education system, or years of education, that they are instructed not to ask questions. 그냥 묻지 말고
그냥 외워요.
풀어.
Just solve it.
그냥 수학은 계속 풀고
Yeah.
이건 그냥 처음부터 끝까지 외워.
그쵸.
그리고 그 시험에 그걸 다 쏟아내는 거죠.
Yeah.
But I think the future that they will face, and especially even from now on, it's a war of creativity.
I agree. Economically, I think there can be implications for the nation's future, right?
That's right.
We're living in a time where a lot of the money is no longer coming from manufacturing.
Yeah.
It's coming from the development of ideas,
True
right?
that.
Ideas and new technologies, and as we know, we are living in the era of AI.
Yes. AI, another hot topic. Hot for Gwangju as we set our sights on becoming an AI hub.
Yeah.
But also hot in terms of educational philosophy, right?
Absolutely right. Yeah. So really interesting again because Lindsay and I, of course, very personally invested in the field of education. We often talk about, for example, the 수능, the test which often defines a student's future in many ways. And that is all exactly what you said. Memorize this book, memorize these 10 books, and just solve A, B, C, D, or E on this one. And that's totally divorced from the idea of expressing creativity, I think.
그쵸. And actually, like, one thing that shocks me is the amount of multiple choice questions, tests in Korea,
Yeah.
right, compared to Canada.
Yeah.
Far fewer in Canada, far fewer
That's
multiple
right,
choice.
That's right.
I understand it started as a way to give all students kind of a fair
Yeah.
evaluation system. However, I think it's kind of backfired now because
That's right.
it's,
I think we are almost at a point of regretting
Do you
that
think so?
we have continued this so far, because as an adult and also an educator, that I feel guilty for younger students
do you?
having to go through this
Yeah.
still.
I guess a lot of people see it as a rite of passage in some ways. I'm curious on that note, do you actually see a route in which that is changed in Korea and the rote memorization, the Sunung style of test taking, do you think that could be changed?
I think the high school system is slowly changing, but I don't know whether it will actually gain speed and change the entrance exam system for good,
Yes.
because it's been with us since
Since
God
forever.
knows.
Thousands of years, right? In some form or
Since the
another.
beginning of time.
Basically, 5,000 years of Sunung history. But also, I think I teach young students, and I am definitely seeing more of a focus on not only creativity, but also 사회성, the social skills,
Oh, yeah.
as well as 감정, 감정
맞아요.
조절,
맞아요.
감정 표현.
Really?
So, now I think, the kindergarteners now, maybe 20 years from now, we can see an effect from that. But that's
Sure.
also another problem of changing education. Is it
will take long.
takes such a long time, right?
right.
It will take long.
For sure, it's a long process, but it's certainly one that we shouldn't give up on just for it having that time requirement for sure.
그럼.
Yeah, I'm curious, Lindsay, as a Canadian person, the two of us here went through the UK system. Did you have opportunities to express creativity when you were in school?
Oh, yeah. Unlike, I believe even unlike the UK, Canada has no state exams, and we have no entrance exams for university. So 우리 like 수능 같은 거 아예 없어요.
정말요?
Yeah. So
Really?
대신에 we focus a lot, even our 학점, like our school marks in high school, focus a lot more on projects,
coursework.
daily work, coursework compared to exams. So I think even compared to the UK, I think Canada is like less exam focused. So we had lots of opportunities to be creative. In high school, most of my projects were creative projects, presentations and whatnot. How about you guys in the UK system? There's also a chance to
Mix, I would say.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have exams, A-levels, GCSEs, that we take at a specific point at the end of the year.
What is an A level?
A-level.
Like high school.
High school exam?
The
Okay.
final exam we take.
Like a
before-
수능?
Not really. It takes over a period of 2 months that you take
Oh.
part 1 exam, part 2 exam.
오케이,
part
그래서
3
하루에
exam.
하는 거
아니에요.
아니에요.
No.
오케이,
No.
오케이. Whew.
Yeah,
Wow.
but that could maybe be 50% of a grade, and then we also have coursework as
Coursework.
well. And even the one thing that I found to be particularly interesting, having come to Korea, those A-levels, often it could be write an essay.
Yes.
So you have like 2 hours, for example, if you have an English literature class, you have 2 hours to write an essay on some book that you've read, John Steinbeck book or something, and you get the question at that time, and you express your creativity.
Right.
And
And
also
then
your thoughts, your own interpretation.
Exactly. Nobody's sitting there telling you this is what John Steinbeck meant when he wrote this book.
그쵸.
You have to interpret it for yourself.
And you get points even if you're wrong. I don't know if the UK does this, and I'm pretty sure Korea doesn't do this, but in Canada, even on math, when you show all of your work,
really?
the answer, for example, one question is 5 points. If you show all of your work and the answer is wrong, you can still get 4 points out of 5.
Wow.
So we count the work and not the answer. But I imagine Korea does
I
not
don't think
that.
so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
You
How
made
about
all
the
the
UK?
effort, but the answer's wrong. It was a
It's
waste
wrong.
of time.
It's wrong. What's the point? 과정의
Yeah.
결과 제일 중요하니까.
그렇죠. I guess the UK is probably also like a balance in the middle there. I stopped studying maths when I was about 16, so I can't remember that clearly.
It's seared. I have like trauma from math class in high school. Yeah.
But clearly now I think the high school process in Korea, that's kind of what we're talking about today, or part of the thing that we're talking about today, because there is a reason you're in Gwangju right now, which, by the way, your first time ever to travel to
That's
Gwangju.
right. That's right.
How are you finding it?
부끄럽지만.
Right? First time for everything, right? Everybody has to try something first.
We're happy
once.
you're here.
Yes.
How has it been so far?
오늘 너무 흥분된 마음으로 왔어요. 기차 타고
Really?
광주 처음 간다. 뭐를 먹을까 하면서
I was gonna say, what are you?
드셔야죠.
What are you eating? That's the most important thing.
you have to give me some recommendations as locals.
Oh,
Lindsay is the expert on the local
listen,
food.
you don't get a body like this from not eating, okay? But before we get into food,
Yeah.
yes, Dave, you had a great idea. Let's talk about the reason why
Yeah.
Edu-curator Nim is here in
Yeah.
Gwangju.
I believe I heard that you actually gave a special talk to students at Jeonnam Foreign Language High School.
That's right.
I'm sure it was a wonderful opportunity for the students. The title, it was 내가 나의 집이다.
네,
did you
맞아요.
give it in English or in Korean?
국어로 했죠.
Oh, really?
네.
Foreign Language High School, and you of course speak English, but yeah, in English that would be called "I'm My Own Home." Could you tell us a little bit about that lecture and the contents that you shared with the students?
Because the main audience is high school students, I wanted to give them my own personal insight of how life can be understood with a comparison to architecture.
Oh, okay.
And I start by telling them about the beaver's lodge, how beavers build their own.
Canada's national animal.
Make the
Oh, really? Yes.
congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very familiar with them. So how do beavers build their lodge?
They're very clever. They build a dam across a river to control the level of water. So they trap water to start with, and then they build their own lodge in the middle of the water with 2 entrances. Do you know why? So that's how I started.
Oh, you asked this is the question. Dave and I have talked about this.
About beavers building lodges.
Yeah, you spend an inordinate amount of time talking about beavers. No, about the most difficult question for a lot of our students to answer is why.
Yeah.
Why do you think that? Why?
You have to use their power of deduction to figure out
That's
why
right.
would a beaver need two entrances.
Why would a beaver
I
need
think
two
you probably know
entrances?
the answer, don't you?
Well, if there's two beavers inside and they both want to go out at the same time.
Well,
No.
Is
Well,
one of them like an emergency escape or something like that?
more, yeah.
Oh.
More,
Close.
yeah.
I think you're
Dave!
pretending you don't know.
No, I really don't know. Why are there two entrances to a?
If there is an attack or approach from a predator from one entrance, then you can make an escape through the other.
I think I have heard that
Dave.
before.
Yeah.
Are you a beaver?
I've read my fair share of beaver-related content, let's say. That's really interesting.
What?
Were students able to answer that question?
I don't think so.
No.
Not from the-
Maybe they were thinking of it, but
Yeah.
then, as with many Korean students, they are not really.
Too shy.
Yeah.
Try.
That's right.
So, what do you think the students took away from your talk?
that a home takes a long time to build, and I would like them to think that they are building their own home within themselves, as well as for others.
Wow.
It's like a building process.
So you have to choose which rooms you think are important
Yes.
to yourself, what kind of things to cultivate
Wow.
inside
That's
yourself,
right. That's right. Where to make a proper window, where to make a solid wall,
Oh.
where to make a transparent partition. I think that can really relate how we deal with ourselves and with others.
So what we're open to, where our boundaries
That's
are.
right, that's right.
Wow.
I guess the fundamental thing is that every individual student has their own home that they build based on their own desires.
That's right.
Their
That's right.
맞춤형, as you said before. You know, you don't have to just make a blueprint of somebody else's home and copy that as is. Build it as you want.
Individually
Yeah.
and uniquely, and it will take them different periods of time because they're all individual and unique.
좀 소름 돋아요.
그쵸.
진짜요?
Yeah, it's
진짜요?
inspiring.
You know,
진짜요?
some of us here are in our late 30s and are learning a lot today.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a great opportunity for us, like I said, Lindsay, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Okay, now we just have a couple more minutes left.
That's true.
I'd like to ask you about something that you're doing in 전라남도.
아, 네.
I've
네, 네,
heard
네.
about this project that you're actually kicking off tomorrow
맞아요, 맞아요.
called the Study Travel Project.
맞아요.
What is this?
그 이름이 얘기하듯이 공부하고 배우고 여행하고 그리고 또 연결한다는 그런 의미가 있어요.
그래서 여행하면서 배우는 거, 배우면서 여행하는 거
동시에.
동시에.
네. 왜냐하면 이번에 캐나다에서 선생님들이 오셨거든요.
아, 정말요?
캐나다 밴쿠버 지역의 선생님들이 오시고 지금 작은 학교들을 방문하시면서 영어 수업도 하시고 문화 교류도 하시고 하면서 동시에 제가 확신하는 거는 학생들도 배우지만 이 오신 선생님들도 어마어마한 것을 배워가실 거라고 생각해요. 네.
오.
It's kind of give and take. That's the word that I said. The teachers not only educating the students but also learning themselves by going to these small areas. So, Lindsay, from your home country, great to see both of our homelands being incorporated.
Yes, Commonwealth forever.
From Vancouver, nonetheless. I know there's a big Korean diaspora over there in Vancouver as well, so I'm sure an important link being made there. Visiting small schools, I guess there's travel, study at the same time, inspiring the students in those schools to see the opportunities that they might be able to have, you know, if they apply themselves in that way. I guess that's the goal.
So is this a program where visiting teachers visit small schools or where students from schools visit other areas?
이번에 학생들도 같이 왔어요.
Oh, really?
학생들도
From Canada?
Canadian students?
미국에서
American
알고
students.
있어요. 네네.
오,
같이 와서.
came to Korea.
네네.
Came to 전라남도.
이번 프로젝트를
Wow.
하려고 같이. 네네네.
So they're going into schools and similarly giving, I like a talk, I guess, to the students in schools.
네네, 멘토링 톡도
Mentoring.
같이 하고 학생들이랑 같이 활동도 하고.
Wow.
네네.
And these are, I've heard, very small schools, right? So are these like 시골 학교? 뭐라고 해야지?
작은 마을.
작은 마을.
네네, 네.
이런 학교예요.
그렇죠.
Of
그렇죠.
course, I guess in Jeollado we have the 1,004 islands of
그렇죠.
Jeollado.
That's great
Presumably you're
knowledge.
visiting
저는
some of
금오도.
Kumodo.
네.
구모도
네,
여수
시작해요.
쪽에 있는
네,
구모도예요.
맞아요. 네.
Wow.
Can you imagine the culture shock? Like double culture shock.
그렇죠.
Small island school students culture shocked at American students. American students culture shocked
Wow.
at island school
But
students.
if you were that student or that American, you can imagine that would be amazing. Right?
What an
Take
amazing
you out of your comfort zone.
Definitely. Can I ask you what motivated you to set up this? Is it a camp? Can we call it a camp? Camp program? Education program.
Education program.
Okay.
Or project.
Project. Education project. What kind of led you to start this kind of project?
이 프로젝트는 지금 그 전라남도 교육청에서 지금 국제 교류의 일환으로 이제 올해 처음 시작하신 거라고 저는 알고 있거든요. 근데 이번 해가 캐나다와 한국이 교류를 맺은 지 65년 되는 거 혹시 알고 계세요?
Whoa.
네.
Yeah, of course I knew that. Obviously, very 65 years of our, what would we say, diplomatic relations.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes. Congratulations, Korea and Canada.
근데 이번에 이제 특별히 이렇게 시작을 하게 됐는데 이번 기회를 통해서 좀 더 국가적으로도 여러 나라가 참여할 수 있는 그런 프로젝트로 확장해 나갈 걸 기대하고 있고요.
좀 더 글로벌하게.
맞아요. 네네. 그리고 전라남도 학생들 그리고 특히 이 작은 마을에 있는 학생들이 글로벌 시티즌십을 또 배울 수 있는 그런 기회가 될 수 있을 거라고 저는 생각하고 있어요.
A little bit of a summary there. I was trying to keep track while we're saying. So, yes, this is the first time for this project to start, but you're hoping that over time it will progress, become more international, and be super beneficial, no doubt, even from the first year. But to the students of these, as we said, small villages in Jeollado, maybe to them they might think sometimes they don't have the same opportunities as people in other areas. But no, thanks to their opportunity here, they're hoping to have global citizenship skills
That's
nurtured
right.
within them.
That's
Realize, cliched as it is, but the world is their oyster.
That's
in many
right.
ways. Would you agree,
That's
Lindsay?
right.
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Cliche. I hate to make a cliche, but I think it's appropriate in this
No,
time.
I think so. I think hopefully the world is all of our oyster, but we've definitely been seeing over the last couple of years, I think Jeollanam-do has realized how important it is to nurture kind of international thinking
That's
talent
Yeah.
in
That's right.
in the province, right? So I'm not
Adapting
surprised.
to the times.
그쵸. What do you think the students in a small, tiny island like Kumodo, what can they get from this kind of experience?
It's a great question.
I think it's very important for children to be exposed to different opportunities. And as you said, for children in big towns and cities, they are more likely to be exposed to different and diverse spectrum of experiences. I trust and I believe that for the children of Kumodo and other children participating in this project, they will realize that the world is not so big.
Interesting.
They can be the center of the world, and they are connected.
Inspiring.
And also they will be motivated to further branch out,
Go.
reach out,
Get out of there.
and challenge.
That's interesting because often we hear that people say that we hope that they realize the world is a big place.
Yeah. It's not all that big.
Not that big.
Yeah.
사람들이 다 사람이니까.
그러니까요.
그렇죠.
I can see really tragically we are coming up to the end of our time, but before we finish, is there any last words you would like to share with our listeners today?
저는 특히 학생들에게 좀 용기를 주는 그런 얘기를 해주고 싶어요. 항상 curious하게 지내고 그리고 즐기면서 지냈으면 좋겠다. Stay curious and try to find enjoyment in whatever you do.
Great stuff.
Words to live by, truly.
Yeah, and let's hope that we'll see a great impact of this sort of nurturing of young students' minds within a short period of time.
그래요.
Mhm.
But first, we have to say a big thank you
Yes.
to 김자영 대표님 for joining us today. 와주셔서
아유,
감사합니다.
감사합니다.
And hopefully we will see some developments, as you say, Dave, in the future. But for now, it's time for you to say.
네, 너무 아쉽지만 오늘의 오매광주는 여기서 마무리하겠습니다.
But make sure you're joining us from 1 to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday right here on Ggn. That's 98.7 FM in Gwangju and 93.7 FM in Yeosu.
Coming up next is JD's Culture Club.
We hope you have a fantastic day today. Monday, 화이팅! We'll meet you back here at the same time tomorrow.
We're going to finish up with this track by Whitney Houston. It is Greatest Love of All. 월화수목금
오후 1시에서 2시까지
오매광주.
오매광주!